All right, we're live with Heidi Campbell, State Senate candidate and Mayor of Oak Hill in Senate District 20. You are listening or watching Mondays with Monday, otherwise called the Case of the Mondays. We're having an identity crisis right now because this is not my full-time job, but we're part of the Tennessee Holler Podcast Network and really grateful to be online and sharing the message of Democratic and progressive candidates around the state of Tennessee. If you have time, go to a link in the Tennessee Holler bio. Follow them on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can't get enough content because they are spreading really positive messages about what Democratic candidates are doing around the state. And one of those, which I'm really happy to talk to, myself being a former state Senate candidate, I understand how hard it is to raise money and to run for the state Senate. So I've got, just tremendous sympathy for you, Mayor Campbell, but welcome to the show. If you could tell us a little bit about yourself and your campaign.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I grew up in Nashville and went to school in District 20, mostly, and then in Nashville proper. And boy, has Nashville changed a lot over the years. Came back a few years ago with my husband after living in Minnesota for a couple of years to a very different city, and was building a house and found out that a commercial development was supposed to go up in my area, and decided that that we had to do something about that. And so I started a group called Save Oak Hill, and we prevented the commercial development. And then one thing led to another, and we needed somebody to run for office to keep that, protection going. And so I was the sucker that volunteered, and what we have managed to do that. And I was the mayor of Oak Hill for 4 years, and prior to that was the vice mayor of Oak Hill. And then, before that, I'm kind of bouncing around here, but was a executive in the music business, did licensing to film and television. And then before that was a songwriter and a singer in a band that toured the US and Europe, and put music on television shows, my own music on TV shows as well. And I have 2 kids, and I'm just really concerned about the future of our state. And that's kind of why I got into this race. And that just continues to be more and more the case throughout this pandemic. So
that's great. Thanks. And for our viewers and listeners, there's a little trouble with the audio because you also were a part of the power outage in West Nashville from the storms last night. So we apologize for the technical difficulties, but we're really glad you were able to improvise and get on the show today. I didn't know that you were a musician yourself, and I think your opponent, State Senator Steve Dickerson, is a bass player. So if you could just tell us really briefly, what's better, a singer or a bass player? Just kidding.
He's a guitarist, actually.
Okay, great. Well, every band needs a guitarist, but he'll be hopefully in the background. Your issues are hyper local. How do you see that in the transition going into the state Senate? What do you see are the changes that have happened in Nashville that maybe don't align with the changes that are happening in the state of Tennessee?
Yeah, Nashville has had unprecedented growth since I was in high school, and that's had positive and negative results. I mean, I love the increased diversity, cultural opportunities, and the job growth that we've had. Planning on the front end, though, of that, in terms of infrastructure, affordable housing, environmental issues such as stormwater management, it wasn't great. And so we are, of course, also experiencing a financial hangover that could have been prevented with better planning. And concurrently, Tennessee transitioned from being a moderate blue state to a far right red state. And that was by design, and it was to our detriment. So Nashville contributes more to our state than any other area in the state, and yet the state is starving us by not fully funding schools. We have $1 billion annual shortfall, and also by not contributing to affordable housing or maintaining and building out infrastructure to sustain growth. So I think that there's a real problem with our relationship with the state, especially in this district, and I'm hoping there's an appetite for change for that right now.
And you mentioned that Nashville on your website, which I'll put up in a moment, www.campbell20.com. So I hope everyone goes to that listening. We contribute a third of the state's operating budget. Where could the state be spending that money more wisely, and why are we currently not getting our fair share?
Yeah, I mean, so infrastructure, there's so many places, but infrastructure, affordable housing, social programs, environmental reform. I hope that out of this just hellish year, we'll have bipartisan support for programs that benefit all Tennesseans. The puerility of spending so much time on partisan and punitive bills is so much more apparent when we're losing jobs and education and, frankly, lives. So climate change isn't going away, and we have to address our emissions, waste management, and transit issues. We're going to be dealing with the financial fallout of this for a very long time. And as a Vanderbilt MBA and as the chief executive of my city, who's established a track record for fiscal bona fides, and a member of the Mayor's Caucus of Middle Tennessee, who's got experience working within a bipartisan group of people in this region to get stuff done, I am ready to meet this moment and these challenges.
Yeah, that sounds like something we don't hear from the current state legislature enough. It seems like there are a lot of climate change deniers in the state legislature. That's no doubt. How has your opponent responded to your campaign, and what are some of the contrasts between the two of you?
Yeah, my opponent, he's been pretty quiet so far. That is not something I anticipate will stay. They were brutal to my opponent, my friend Aaron Coleman, who was his opponent in 2016. I don't know if you saw those bags of money. And, not only was it baseless and mean-spirited, but it was anti-Semitic. So far on my end, we've heard nothing, but I'm waiting for it any day. I am running on my record of being a good fiscal steward to my constituents. I served as a mayor for 6 years, for 4 years and 2 years as a vice mayor before that. And in that time, I returned $2 million to my city reserves at a time when the hall tax, which is our greatest source of revenue, was being phased out. And I eliminated my own pay and balanced the budget and never missed a vote. My opponent has missed a lot of votes. As a matter of fact, he's 150 votes that were critical. And he actually tweeted himself a picture of himself napping right before he didn't come to the floor for the vote on the fetal heartbeat bill.
Right.
So maybe it's a point of pride with him. I don't know. But I know he's had a lot of demands on his time because he's been in federal court defending himself and his colleagues on charges that they defrauded public health insurance companies out of $25 million. He wrote over 750 fraudulent prescriptions himself, according to the court filings. And he is accused of pocketing around $6 million in the scam. And he recently settled out of court for an undisclosed sum. And, I guess that we don't know what that is. But I've been working with elected and union leaders in our city to help financially distressed artists. When I took office, I got rid of my salary because it's a service position. I think we need people who aren't greedy in the legislature. And that's part of why I'm running too.
So just to summarize, two basic points that you described of your opponent: sleeps on the job and is accused of stealing taxpayer money. I think that we've got that down. That's interesting. So if you become our next state senator here in Davidson County in District 20, is it possible to pass meaningful legislation being in the super minority? What will your winning this seat mean for the state of Tennessee?
I don't have delusions about being able to go into to a super majority and make grand sweeping changes. I think that'd be disingenuous. Being a mayor of Oak Hill was great training ground for that, and understanding what hard work it is to actually work with people across the aisle and to get things done. And you're mostly there, I think, to run interference. As a municipal mayor, I have written and enacted enough legislation to know that research and data acquisition are really, really crucial. But one thing that I really believe that we need on every level of government, not just in our state, but across this country, is a level of compassion, civility, and respect. And I think it's important for us to remember that we agree across the political spectrum on roughly 80% of the issues. So we need to start working together to get stuff done, and it involves establishing trust. And I've been able to do that for my city. I know I'll be able to do it in the legislature. I've actually got bipartisan support in this campaign. And I can tell you from talking to voters across the district that defending the rights of historically marginalized communities like the LGBTQ community, people of color, Black lives do matter, as well as women's reproductive rights is very important. And I promise that I will join my Democratic colleagues in doing everything I can to stop efforts to roll back those rights.
And you mentioned earlier in this conversation the fetal heartbeat bill, which can you just briefly talk about how much of an embarrassment that was, and any other legislation that you've seen in Tennessee that's been embarrassing in particular?
Yeah, the fetal heartbeat bill is so embarrassing and scary. And, when I talk to my friends who live on the coast and say, why do you live in such a red state? One of the things I say is because we're fighting the good fight here. This is where the bills that are going to wend their way up to the Supreme Court get seated, not seated, but seated. Mm-hmm. And that's what that's about. That's about trying to, and it ends up costing us a lot of money, and it ends up taking up a lot of our bandwidth. But eventually, of course, the hope is that in one of these red states, one of those bills will actually make it up to the Supreme Court, and we'll be able to overturn Roe versus Wade, which, in my opinion, is just all about misogyny. Mm. Nobody is pro-abortion. If you want to prevent abortion, then donate to Planned Parenthood. They prevent abortions than any organization in the world. But to your question, there's a long list. I mean, we're in the news for all the wrong reasons. And Tennessee needs containment measures, healthcare coverage. We're in big economic trouble. And the Republican supermajority is focused on bills to honor Rush Limbaugh and jail librarians. There's a long list, and I'm sure you're aware of a lot of those things.
Right. And when you're in the state legislature, you mentioned as mayor of Oak Hill, being able to return $2 million back to the city's budget. We have $1 billion rainy day fund here in Tennessee. What could we do with that fund right now in a moment of national and state crisis?
So much. I mean, there's so much we can do. The economic efficiency has not been our strong suit in Tennessee. I think that a lot of that has been motivated from a partisan perspective. We're looking around right now and seeing how hard that's been on us in terms of not expanding Medicaid. I mean, look at all the rural hospitals that are in big trouble. Look at all the healthcare issues we're facing right now and how hard that's been on Tennesseans. And as you and I both know, we've just been leaving billions of dollars on the table for purely partisan reasons there. There are other economic efficiencies that I think we can find where we can work together. Let's put money into green energy. Climate change is this huge issue that we don't talk about, and it's not going away. And it's a hard issue to sustain, but we have no choice. We have to look at that.
Yeah. What are some other organizations around Tennessee that you've aligned yourself with that you think are doing significant work that maybe complement your campaign for the state Senate?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of empowering organizations and experts that have already done the hard work in the various areas that they've made progress in, like Gideon's Army. Gideon's Army is a wonderful organization that has violence interrupters that are members of their own community. Sometimes they've been incarcerated, who go in and help in social situations. And, there's an example of, we're talking about defunding the police, which I think is unfortunate terminology. Democrats aren't great at messaging. I think a better thing to talk about there would be reforming, our police program and assisting our police officers who work hard for us because they shouldn't be as expected to be social workers, right? So Gideon's Army is a great example of an organization that we should empower to do that kind of thing because they're already doing it. TWIG, Tennessee Women in Green, they're a wonderful environmental group that I just love. There's a group called Braver Angels that I belong to. That's a group of Democrats and Republicans who get together and have civil debates on issues, and not a lot of minds get changed. But what it does is it creates a gestalt, a platform of respect that I think everybody really appreciates walking out. There's more respect there when everything is so polarized. I think that's important. But I am I served on the solid waste board for 6 years and am now just leaving, and we worked on a zero waste plan. And so I'm very cognizant of the environmental issues that we're facing in this area. Our landfills are at capacity. We have to start putting money, energy, and messaging into that. And it doesn't have to be a drain on our finances, because we can generate green energy opportunities. We can generate green jobs. So I believe that we really need to look seriously at putting our resources into that.
And as we get closer to November, what are some of the nuts and bolts of your campaign? How do you bring all these different coalitions together, these positive attributes that are part of your campaign? How do we bring that together to win?
Yeah, campaigning during the pandemic has been weird, so we can't canvass. We're blowing up the phones. We have made 60,000 phone calls into our universe so far. And we're committed to hitting 100,000 before November 3rd. That's a lot of phone time. But we're really fortunate to have received an enthusiastic response from so many people who are interested in volunteering, because they really appreciate the opportunity that we have here to flip the last state legislative seat held by a Republican in Davidson County. And at this point, we've got a regular phone bank about every day of the week. So people come on board, join our phone bank. We'd love to have you. Write postcards, deliver signs, email our volunteer coordinator, Drew at campbelltn20.com, or feel free to call me. My cell phone's on the website. We're also dealing with the challenge of not being able to do large in-person fundraising events. So I really spend most of my days making calls. I call 150 people a day. But that having been said, our campaign is really exciting. It's in a great place right now. We've got an amazing team, and we just got the results of 2 polls that show us ahead of the incumbent by a couple of points, which for a challenger, I understand is very significant. And we have not flipped a state Senate seat in Tennessee in 15 years. Yeah. We can flip this seat. So we are running a really to get to the general and flip this seat and show everybody who runs the town, Democrats. So.
Right. And this, I think you said it very well. This could be a historic election, not only nationally, but here as well. The last time I think that we flipped a Republican seat to Democrat 15 years ago, when a Democrat turned Republican, and then we won that back when Low Finney became the state senator in Jackson, Tennessee. So there's our final piece of legislative history for the day. But I am so grateful that you're running. I'm so grateful that you have a strong progressive voice, and it's a winnable race. And so we've got the website on Facebook and Twitter, and it's here on the video right now. Go to campbell20.com, make a contribution. I think you have a fundraiser, an online fundraising coming up in the next week. I got an email about recently.
We do, and that's on our Facebook page. Please come join us. We would love to have you. It's a very illustrious list of Democrats across the state, and actually a few Republicans who are supporting this campaign. So we would love to have you join us.
Yeah, we need everyone together to vote for Heidi Campbell this election season, and Democrats up and down the ballot. So once again, thank you so much for joining us, Heidi. Thank you everyone for watching and listening. This will be posted on iTunes tomorrow. It'll be available on Spotify as well, and you can listen and share with family and friends. Again, go to tnholler.com and sign up for updates, email updates. You can even give monthly $5, but I'd also encourage you to give to Heidi Campbell's campaign. So thanks again. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, Wade. Have a good day.